This is episode 23 of Ruminate. I'm Rob Lewis, and back after a short hiatus is John Voorhees. Good morning, John.
Hey, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? You've relaxed again a little bit?
Yeah, I think I'm almost back to normal. It's, WWDC takes a lot out of you. It was a ton of fun, but it was a little crazy, too.
Yeah, definitely kind of following along on Twitter. I could just see how busy everybody was, and with parties, and you were doing all the interviews, which we're going to get to in a minute. So yeah, sounds like you had a pretty busy week.
Yeah, it was Twitter bankruptcy most of the week. I was just scrolling to the top over and over again, and wasn't even, I don't know. I had my phone on Do Not Disturb for long periods of time because I was doing the interviews, and I just completely lost track of the world. But I've been slowly but surely getting back into it. But before we talk about anything, we should thank Dave for covering for me 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was great of him to. When you said it was going to be a bit of a hassle if we tried to record, and he very graciously accepted my invitation. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was even more busy than I expected because I had hoped to maybe do a little recording with somebody and drop it into the show. But it was the problem with when we record on a Sunday. That's when everybody's arriving, and so everybody was like pulled in a million different directions, and so that didn't work out, unfortunately. But yeah, it was good to have Dave handle the show while I was away.
So we got there's a couple of bits of follow-up. One is a correction. Last week, me and Dave were talking about PS2 games, and I said the last one was FIFA 15. I actually got my dates wrong. It was FIFA 14 and Pro Evolution Soccer 14 were the last games made for the PS2.
That's very disappointing, Rob.
I know, it's terrible. I think on that point, that's still crazy to me that it's only been 2 years since they stopped PlayStation 2 games.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, the same thing happens with Xbox, though, too, right? I mean, maybe they've stopped now, but it's not that long ago that I've seen new Xbox 360 games coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 360's still going pretty strong, just because, they sold so many units and stuff like that. But, I mean, the PS2's been, like, one of the best-selling consoles of all time.
Sure.
And, so it had, like, 12, 15 years or something of games, which is pretty crazy. But
right, and being 2 generations ago, I mean, that's like someone still building Xbox games as of a year or two ago, which would be nuts. I mean, I think it's been longer. Now I'm the one calling out on the limb to say things that I don't know anything about. They're probably incorrect, but I think it's been longer since we've seen an Xbox game.
Yeah, definitely. And there was one other thing we were talking about. A sequel to Red Dead Redemption. We're going to talk a little bit about E3 in a bit, but one of the things we were chatting about was there was possibly a Red Dead announcement at E3, and sadly that hasn't happened. There was a few rumors, and somebody was pretending they had inside knowledge that it was going to happen, but yeah, no Red Dead announcement at all.
Oh, that's too bad. I saw that rumored, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just recalling seeing tweets from you or something, but. I was kind of looking forward to that too because I think that's a pretty cool game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I did say last week that Rockstar generally don't announce anything, but there'd been a statement from Take-Two saying that they were going to be at E3 in a big way. Take-Two are Red Dead's publisher or Rockstar's publisher, but no, that didn't happen. So I guess we're just gonna have to wait a little bit longer to find out what the next Red Dead game's going to be. Yeah,
well, we'll see. I guess there are a lot of good games coming up. So that we'll have to be satisfied with those for now, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So you probably struggled to keep up with anything that was coming out of E3 because you were busy interviewing every developer you bumped into by all accounts.
Yeah, pretty close to it. It was actually hard to keep up with WWDC too. I mean, that's kind of the irony of being there is that I didn't have a ticket, but I was so busy during the day that I didn't see anything other than the keynote and the platform State of the Union. And I still haven't actually. I'm going to start watching the sessions today after having recovered for the last week. But yeah, as a result, it's a little hard to keep up with the news. But I had, right before WWDC, I published an article about app discovery on Mac Stories. And during the research for that, I talked to a bunch of different developers just about discoverability and what they thought. should change on the App Store. And I took the opportunity to pitch them on the idea of doing some interviews while I was at WWDC. And everybody was very receptive to it. The difficulty, though, was that no one could really schedule anything in advance because we didn't know what was going to be announced. We didn't, no one wanted to really talk before the keynote because all you end up doing then is looking wrong when they're published. And no one really knew what their social schedule was going to be or what sessions they wanted to go to. So one of the things that made it very busy and tough was that I started out Tuesday morning with about 2 hours of contacting tons of people. Because in the end, I think I ended up interviewing about 21 people over 16 interviews. And that wasn't even all the ones that I probably could have done. I probably could have squeezed in 2 or 3 more. But as it was kind of exhausting. I would start the mornings out, just scheduling everything out and then slot them for 1 hour because I typically they usually were 15 minutes to 30 minutes long. I would talk to somebody and then rush off and add all the metadata and upload them to SoundCloud and announce them on Telegram and Twitter. And I could get that done in about an hour. So that worked out pretty well. But it made for kind of a relentless process, and interviewing people is a little draining in and of itself because you kind of be on and you have to be listening intently to kind of push the conversation forward. And but it was a ton of fun. I had a great time, and I met a lot of people who, some of the people I interviewed I knew already pretty well, but I'd say about half of them I had actually never met. So it was neat to kind of chat with them and get everyone's reactions both to what was announced and talk to them a little more about their own projects.
Yeah, I was. I said to you before we started recording, but I waited until they were all out, and then I sat down and did some Lego and listened, all the way through for 4 hours or whatever it is. And what stuck out for me was your amazing ability to come up with different questions for each person you interviewed. You somehow managed to not really ask the same question twice to anybody.
Yeah, thanks. It was that was kind of the hard part, but it helps that I kind of knew what all these people do and what their interests were based on what apps they work on. So that was kind of how I did that. But going into it, I was worried about 2 things in particular. One was the background noise, because I knew there was no way I was going to be able to do this anywhere other than somewhere that was noisy. And the other one is I just have never really interviewed anybody, so I didn't know whether I was going to be any good at it. Which is why I interviewed Tom Pritchard when he was in Chicago, because I figured I'd take him to a restaurant, see how it sounded, and it was good enough. I mean, the background noise I'm sure it annoys some people, but it also kind of lends itself to the artifice that it's the Mac Stories Lounge, which is what we call our Telegram channel. So it's a little bit like we're sitting in the lounge just chatting about stuff in a bar, which is exactly where I was, in the Park 55 bar all week. Didn't get out of that bar much.
Oh, really? Is that what you were actually doing? Or you just sat in the bar?
I sat in a bar, and the bar was really quiet from about 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. So it was the perfect place, and the wait staff was really the service quality was really bad. So I was never interrupted by a waiter. I just would set up my little portable studio at a table, and people would come by and I'd chat with them. And sometimes there were other people who I was hanging out with sitting next to me listening while I was doing it. I had like a little studio audience from time to time.
Oh man, I don't know how you did it, but yeah, you really did a great job.
No, thanks.
And there's an RSS feed that SoundCloud has generated. We'll put an Overcast link in the show notes as well. So
yeah,
grab all those episodes.
Right. I mean, the thing is that there's a lot of different ways to listen to it if you want to. I mean, each individual track is on SoundCloud. As you said, there's an RSS feed and an Overcast feed. There's also embeds in the article that I wrote following up on it and kind of talking about the trends and things that were common to a lot of the interviews. So there's a lot of different ways. And if you're a Club Mac Stories member, you can get the full file with chapter markers, thanks to Tom Pritchard's podcast chapters app. So there's a lot of different ways to listen to it if you want.
Perfect. So we're gonna just mention a couple of things that we're excited about. We're not gonna go in depth. If you want in-depth WWDC analysis, I recommend Upgrade 93 and ATP 174. Those guys are going to go into a lot more detail than we are. I think there's no point in us rehashing everything that those guys have said. So I think that's the big one on iOS. I think was deleting default apps, which actually wasn't even kind of announced at WWDC. It was just a separate kind of help documentation after the keynote.
Yeah, it was discussed in a little more depth during the live talk show recording. I don't know if you've listened to that. They're not actually being deleted; they're just being hidden.
Yeah.
So they're not going to save you any space, but you do get the icons off your screen. And the reason for that is that part of it has to do with code signing. It's a security measure and a check. And if you were to pull out the apps, the codes, the binary would look different, and it wouldn't be possible to get the security check. So they leave the code in there. They just hide the icon.
Yeah, and I think that's fine, because I don't know about you, but for me, like, I'm not trying to save 5 meg of space by deleting the Stocks app, which I'm sure is a tiny app. Like, I just don't want it there. Like, I don't need to have this folder that's just called unused apps because I never use them. I just want to get rid of them. It doesn't really bother me. Either way, whether they're actually deleted or not. And
right.
Then you kind of fake re-download them from the store and they get unhidden again. So
yeah, the majority of the apps are I think relatively small ones, so I don't think that that's a big issue. But it is nice that you can kind of, if you want to tidy up, you can get rid of the ones that you never look at. Like, I assume Compass is on that list, but there are a lot of little things that people don't use, stocks, that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything that you're kind of excited about specifically?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are a couple of things. I think Messages is going to be pretty huge. I mean, especially for developers. Apple's really created a separate platform for app development through the Messages app. They've taken, as I watched that part of the keynote, I was struck by how close it is to things like Telegram. I'm not as familiar with WhatsApp, but I know they have that. There are a lot of similar features there. And Facebook Messenger has, for instance, had apps built into it for quite a while. Of course, if you're in Facebook Messenger and you want to get an app, it kicks you out to the store. With Messages, you can buy them right in line, and a feature that I think is going to be great for developers is that if I send you, say, a GIF, Rob, from GIF-Wrapped or something like that, if they had an app on the Messages store, then it would include a link with it so that you could download it and use it yourself. So it's going to create kind of a network effect, I think, allow apps to spread pretty quickly among friends.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you take a look at Twitter on any given day. If somebody posts a screenshot of something, of any app, the first reply is always, "What app is that?"
Right.
And I think you're going to get the same kind of reaction with Messages. But as you say, if there's a link there, I can just click it and go, "Great, now I can send John GIFs as well."
Right.
It's definitely a really smart way to do it. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny to watch that during the keynote with everybody kind of tweeting, going, "I don't understand this. What are young people doing with Messages?" But
yeah, suddenly everybody on Twitter was old. I don't know that I really get it, but it's fine. I mean, I get it. I'm an old guy. But in any event, I think part of the problem with the demo is that they show every feature, and so you're not going to always use every feature in every conversation, and so it just looks like a cluttered, crazy mess when you see it all at once.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, as you say, I'm excited about that because iMessage is built in, so it's nice to use iMessage if you can. But if it doesn't have features like auto link expansion and stickers and GIFs and stuff like that, then it's maybe not so good. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty good update, I think.
Yeah, I've been trying it out for the last couple of days, and one thing that's really pretty cool too is if you send someone a link to a music link to iTunes, it has a little player right in line, so you can listen to the whole song, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. It also, I think, it's interesting that we're getting a whole nother store, because one of the things that I had hoped was that we would see, which we have not, is that we would see some consolidation. Even though the stores are really crowded, it's very hard to find Mac apps and Apple TV apps and things like that. I'd like the ability to use those things and buy those things straight from my, not use, but I guess just buy those things from my iPhone. And I can't do that. So I end up having to remember to go download something on the Apple TV when I get home at night. And I've wanted that both for Apple TV and Mac apps for a while. But this is kind of a decoupling of certain kinds of iOS apps from the main store. I mean, I suppose it's good in that it's going to declutter some of the top lists, because if you go in there, you'll see all these kind of fake emoji apps like the Kardashian emoji and everything, which are really just keyboards that, you copy what are effectively stickers and paste them into your messages. And so this will presumably take those out of the main store and put them in the messages store and create an opportunity for other types of apps to get into those lists.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it is a big problem, I think, that you can't download, a Mac app or an Apple TV app, because, from my phone I can download PlayStation apps, Xbox apps, or games, or whatever, whatever you want to call it. Google Play apps, if I've got Android phone or an Android TV or something like that, I can do all of that from my phone. But when it comes to Mac apps and Apple TV, no chance.
Well, and one thing that looks to me like it could be step one in getting there is that new Apple Pay feature for Safari. I know it's Safari only, but it's one of the things that I had been thinking about in discoverability was can you build into Safari something that's native and allows secure purchasing of apps that that doesn't allow for scamming and other things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I kind of did put about the Apple Pay thing. I put Safari only. I kind of meant to say desktop there. Because obviously on the iPhone, like Safari on the iPhone is huge for mobile. Desktop, not so much.
Right.
But I mean, it is nice to have it there, and maybe they can expand it to other browsers. But if not, it's still a kind of useful feature.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, we mentioned the TV. That's getting a dark mode. That was pretty much it. There was a few other little bits that Siri's maybe getting a little bit better, and the remote app's been updated finally. But yeah, not too much on the Apple TV this year.
Right. I mean, I think the other big area was probably the watchOS, because that was really pretty astounding to see what they've done without actually upgrading the hardware, the performance they've squeezed out of the Apple Watch. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, this was what they opened with, was their big opening feature, was it's faster, apps will run better, they've got rid of glances, so apps are just one type of screen now, I guess. They don't have this separate glance feature, which also makes complications faster and better. They can update more. And I think it was Craig Federighi said at the talk show, kind of implied that they'd underestimated or severely overestimated how much battery they would be using. So now they're kind of taking some of that back to make the watch a little bit better.
Yeah, they also had some RAM to spare, so they're able to keep things resident in memory longer, which gives you. I mean, it's going to depend, I guess, on the size of your apps that you have on your watch, but the things you put in your dock that you use most frequently will be memory resident, and so they'll launch a lot faster that and complications on whatever your current watch face is will launch almost instantly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy about this because I've kind of been a bit down on the Apple Watch. I think a lot of people have. I mean, I like it. I wear it every day, but I use it mostly for notifications. And that that's not because that's all I'd want to use, but the apps have been so slow that it's just not been worth it. So WatchOS 3 is really gonna kind of make it feel like a brand new watch.
Yeah, that and the combination of, I guess, using a little bit more of the budget they had on battery and RAM, combined with the fact that you can get background updates of the data on a periodic basis, which I think you can do something on the order of a couple an hour. I've been told as many as 50 updates a day. So, weather apps and, I don't know, note-taking apps and news apps, all sorts of things like that can update their data periodically. So you won't get stuck looking at it and looking at, maybe a days old information for 3 seconds while it updates.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of other things on Mac OS, which is now called Mac OS as opposed to OS 10. Mm-hmm. We've got the font size in Notes can finally be made bigger. It was just so tiny compared to everything else in the script in the UI. I messaged you last night to ask you because I knew you were installing it, because it's basically the one feature I actually care about.
Yeah, I was given a hard time for posting that screenshot into the Mac Story Slack. They called me the old man who can't see notes, but I think everybody has a hard time with that font. It's so small.
Yeah, I think I've heard, maybe it was on Connected. I think Stephen Hackett was complaining about it, or maybe Mike as well. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a tiny little feature, but I'm really happy about it. We're also getting auto unlock. If you've got a watch, it will just automatically unlock your Mac, which is nice. And then copy and paste between Mac and iPhone. I don't know how well this is going to work, if it's going to be a pain, but we'll see. It's kind of a nice extension of, what do they call it, between the two? I can't think of the word that they call it.
Continuity.
Continuity, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a nice extension of that to be able to kind of keep. I guess it's going to keep the same clipboard. I'm not sure if there's a timeout between it or whatever, but yeah, it'd be interesting to try that out.
Yep, I have not tried that yet, but I think it'll be good. I mean, I've used various clipboard managers, and right now I think the best one is Copied because it is available on both Mac and on iOS, and it uses iCloud to sync, and it does a good job. But because iCloud, if the app is out of memory, if it's actually been quit and you haven't used it in a while, it can take a little while for the iCloud sync to catch up to where you are if you haven't opened the app in a while. So I'm hoping that this, because it's on a system level, will be a little quicker and cover at least some of the use cases that I've used Copied for. I don't think it's going to Sherlock these kind of clipboard manager apps completely, though, because the nice thing about things like Copied or Clips or in those kind of apps is that they actually have a list of all the stuff you have on your clipboard, which I don't think that this feature has. It's more of an automatic, hidden behind the scenes type of thing. Whereas with Copied, you can kind of scroll through the list and find something you copied, maybe 2-3 hours ago really easily, and use that if you want.
Yeah, I use Alfred on the Mac. That's now got a clipboard management feature. So it'd be interesting to see if, I don't know the ins and outs of the APIs, but if I copy on my iPhone and that goes to my Mac, will that get picked up by Alfred or these other kind of clipboard managers? Who knows? But, it'll be interesting to see. If not, I can just disable it, I assume.
Yeah, the other thing that's kind of cool is the notes collaboration. And I tried that a little bit yesterday with Federico, and it works well. The problem is there's no indication that the other person has updated your notes. So, no timestamp, no badge on the icon, no push notification, nothing. So, I just happened to open it later and see that he had typed something in. I mean, I don't know when he did it. Did he do it immediately? Did he do it 5 hours later? That's just how it works. And hopefully they'll add something that makes that a little bit more, work a little better without being as annoying as something like Dropbox Paper, where, we get an email every single time someone edits it, which is not the solution that I want.
No, definitely not. And, once I'm on the beta, we can, maybe we'll just try it out for 1 week and see what happens, and hopefully we won't lose all our notes.
Yeah, no, we'll see. I mean, so far so good. I'm not sure exactly how it resolves conflicts. I saw some speculation on Twitter the other day that it's not necessarily last edit wins, and I don't think anyone's figured out exactly what's going on behind the scenes yet. But I think it'll be fine if you've got two people periodically editing a document like you and I do when we do the show notes, because there's enough time separation between the edits that I doubt it'll result in conflict problems.
Yeah. So anything else on what was announced last week? I think that pretty much covers it for me.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I've just been kind of geeking out since I got back. I spent yesterday, I got a 500 gigabyte SSD and installed OS 10 Sierra on it, 10.12, I guess. Sierra on it, and spent a little time with it, but not a lot yet, and picked up an Apple TV for my basement so I can watch the WWDC sessions without bothering the rest of my family. I can sit down in my dungeon, my recording studio dungeon, and watch those all summer long. And I guess that's about it. I do have iOS 10 on my iPad Pro, not on my phone yet. It's still it's stable for the most part, but it does some weird things with some apps, like mostly layout type things.
Yeah, I'm not going to install the beta yet. I think I'm going to at least wait until the public beta is out. And then maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, it's kind of a battery hog right now too.
Yeah, and I'd be horrified if Overcast broke on one of these, because it's basically the main app that I use on my phone. So I really don't want to risk it.
I haven't actually tried that since I don't use it on my iPad, but the things that I use it for, writing and all that kind of thing, seem to work fine with a few little glitches, but good enough to get work done still. So that's good.
So the other conference that's not WWDC that was running last week was E3. The games. It's not really a conference. I guess more of a, I don't know. You'd got like a trade show almost. So yeah, I mean there was quite a lot announced. I was saying to you earlier, it's the difference in coverage with the Apple coverage of WWDC. It's always very detailed, and here's a list of everything that's been announced, and here's all these documentation and stuff like that. For E3, it's kind of just a mismatch. Like, so some sites will post about the PlayStation announcement, but won't post about the Microsoft one, and it's kind of hard to see everything that has been announced.
Yeah, no, I noticed that, and I came away. I mean, I was having a hard enough time keeping up with WWDC when I was in San Francisco, so I didn't come out of that week with much of an understanding of what was going on at E3, other than people were excited about Zelda. Cuphead's had a really cool trailer video that goes for like 5 or 6 minutes, and that they're remastering Crash Bandicoot, which seemed like a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, so this was the big one from. There's a couple of big things out of Sony's announcement. The two that I was interested in was, as you say, Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and a third Crash Bandicoot game are all being remastered for the PS4, which I think are going to be out maybe towards the end of the year, possibly early next year. So, yeah, that's kind of exciting. It's nice to get some of these older games that maybe don't hold up so well in terms of graphics. Getting a nice remaster. I think a lot of people kind of saw this coming, because there's it's not really a spoiler because it was everywhere, but there's a playable version of Crash Bandicoot in Uncharted, or you can play a level. So, that's kind of exciting. And the other part was a new Spider-Man game that's being released exclusively for PS4, and the trailer looks really fun.
Yeah, that's one I actually still haven't looked at. I should look at this link that you put in here, because I heard Mike Hurley talking about it on Remaster. And I know that Federico had kind of called the Crash Bandicoot thing too, I guess, when they talked about Uncharted, which I didn't listen to because I haven't really played the game yet. But Cupheads is the one that makes me want to buy an Xbox. And I saw that they announced some sort of new Xbox that's coming out. That it's very confusing to me what's happening with Xbox right now. Do you know what? It's a little bit like a PlayStation Slim maybe coming out towards the end of the year.
Yeah, so it's basically just a smaller Xbox One. So it's the Xbox One S, but it also has the ability to play 4K UHD Blu-rays. Hi Joe, and.
To which I say, who cares?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. But yeah, so it has. I mean, I guess potentially, if it can play 4K Blu-rays, then it has the potential to play 4K games, if that's the kind of thing that can happen with the hardware.
Sure.
But I guess, yeah. I mean, if you were going to buy one, I would say wait for this one. This new one, just because. You've got two options. You might as well get the slightly better one.
Yeah, if they're doing that though, I suppose they're not gonna drop the price, I bet.
Yeah, there is that. So yeah, maybe you could get a pretty good deal on a standard Xbox One. Especially
I don't have
for Cupheads, which is not it's not exactly a intensive game.
Yeah, I'm not gonna probably buy an Xbox just for one game, but and I don't have a 4K TV, so sorry, Microsoft.
No, I'm actually buying. I'm looking at getting a new TV for our living room, and I'm going to get 4K just so I can watch like House of Cards in 4K, I guess.
Yeah, you might as well at this point, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know. There's still not a lot of content for it other than on Netflix, but and I wonder what that's going to do to your yeah, you're out with your ISP. I mean, I wonder if do you have the bandwidth to do that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I don't have any kind of data caps or anything like that.
Oh, that's good.
And I get like 100, 120 down or something. So, yeah, I'm sure I should be all right with the 4K. I mean, Netflix is pretty good at kind of scaling the resolution, if your internet drops out a little bit. So it shouldn't be too bad.
No, that's good. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what comes out in the coming months. I assume that you've heard what those guys, when they're some of those podcaster pals of ours went down to Facebook and tried out the Oculus Rift.
Yeah, I did.
It was amazing just talking to them about the experience. They were all completely freaked out. It was like this really, I don't know, intense experience that every single one of them had. It was Mike Hurley, Stephen Hackett, Federico, and CGP Grey all went down to Facebook and tried out the Oculus Rift, and it sounds pretty amazing. But I think it's cost you a good $2,000-$3,000 to get a complete quality rig put together.
Yeah, this is one of the big reservations I have about VR. It's not, it's not the hardware or the games or anything like that. The biggest issue I have is even for the PlayStation VR, which is like £400, I think. Mm-hmm. On top of that, you need the console as well. So then you're looking at £700-800, which is
and you need the camera.
Oh yeah, of course, right? The camera, the Move controller. I think you need as well. So you're looking at like £1,000. Just to play what is going to be a fairly limited amount of games.
That's true. If you already have a PS4, though, I think you're, it's like buying another PS4 at the end of the day, but it's a little bit more reasonable, I guess.
Yeah, but we'll see. I guess I think probably one of my concerns is the amount of games that's going to be available. But we'll see. I guess we'll see kind of towards the end of the year when all this stuff really starts kicking off.
Yeah, I don't know. My understanding is that PS4 has a lot in the pipeline, but the proof will be in the pudding, I guess, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know so much about Oculus. I have not been following that as closely, although now I'm very intrigued, having just talked to those guys about it. So
yeah. So talking of game companies, Vans released some Nintendo shoes. Nintendo-themed shoes, I guess last week. Oh, no, I guess it was probably about 2-3 weeks ago now. And the internet basically exploded. Like, my Twitter timeline was just this for about half an hour.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. I didn't really see that coming. And all of a sudden, it seemed like everybody was buying the same pair of shoes that I knew. It's like at first I saw you, and then Federico and Mike and a bunch of other people all buying different. You got the ones with the high tops with the controllers on them, right?
Yeah. So I bought those, and then I decided, these are really comfy. I like them. I'm going to buy another pair, and then I bought those. Plus they've got these kind of beige ones with little like a block pattern where the normal Vans kind of stripe thing goes across the side. So yeah, right. I've ended up with 3 pairs now.
Yeah, they're basically Mario bricks. I mean, because they're all everything. At least the ones I've seen, most of them were NES themed. Because the controllers on the high tops are NES controllers, right?
Yeah.
And then I think they had another one that had a bunch of characters on it too, but I don't recall. I haven't seen those in a while.
Yeah, there's a few different ones. There's kind of the standard set that you can buy everywhere, and then some various different retailers, some in the US, some in the UK, have got exclusive ones that only they sell. So like Shoe in the UK, they've got some, I think it's some Mario kind of slip-on ones that you can't get anywhere else. And
okay.
And depending like on the kids section, there's some like Princess Peach ones, and I think maybe those are in women's as well, but they don't have those in men's. And it's, so there's quite a few different designs, but you're kind of limited, obviously, depending on your shoe size and whether you want men's or women's or kids or whatever. But yeah, I knew these were coming, and I was kind of keeping an eye out for it. But yeah, as soon as these actually went on sale, it seemed like everybody was just buying them.
Yeah, no, Vans are comfy shoes. I like them. So I did not get a pair though. I just ended up buying a couple of pairs of Converse All Stars over the last couple of weeks. One pair while I was out in San Francisco because they have a store right there on Market Street. So popped in there and picked up some shoes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what is this, John? The last thing you posted in here, please explain this.
Well, it's a fried chicken iPhone case, of course.
Of course.
It is just a clear iPhone case with a fried chicken leg attached to it. Hopefully, it's not a real chicken leg and it's plastic. But I saw this morning. These are the benefits you get of early morning Twitter. Kathy Birdie actually posted this on Twitter. She's a developer in the UK, and I saw this morning and figured this is exactly what we need. This is why we do the show.
Yeah, this is what people come for. I'm looking at this page. I mean, okay, first off, this would be ridiculous to carry around.
I think the chicken leg would be a nice handle. You're not going to drop your iPhone if you're holding onto a chicken leg. As long as it's glued onto that plastic pretty well, I think it would work perfectly.
I just don't know how I would get that in my pocket.
No, that would be a problem.
I'm also looking on the page. They also have what looks like a slice of salmon sushi, and a shrimp as well. A shrimp one for the Galaxy S6. I don't know who's buying these, but there's 14 customer reviews.
Yeah, well, there's an iPhone case for everyone.
One of the top review is, or one of them is, most things taste like chicken. This does not. Won't eat again. So
it looks real though, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I'm still not convinced. I don't know who this is for.
It really just looks like someone was having a bucket of fried chicken and decided to put one of the chicken legs down on top of their phone. That's what it looks like.
It was, and then they went, right, business idea. Let's get this done.
That's right. Time to ship.
Wow. So, you shouldn't send me silly things on the US Amazon because I'll end up sending them to you.
No, that's true. I forgot. Yes, I have a Nicolas Cage pillowcase still tucked away somewhere in my bedroom. It does not get used. If it had been made out of something other than fabric that makes you sweat, maybe I would use it. But
yeah, it was about $6, John. I wasn't expecting the best quality.
Oh, it's not.
So I think that's pretty much it for this week. Don't have anything
All
else.
right.
So that phone case has done me in.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Yes, if you'd like to find Rob online, you can find him at RMLewisUK on Twitter and me at John Voorhees. See, I'm doing that for you, Rob, because since you're losing it.
You're such a pro, John. That was perfect. Let's call it a day.
All right.
Speak to you later.